Right behind me, you can see the U.S. Capitol, where 1 year ago, thousands of former President Donald Trump supporters stormed the building. The scenes that day of rioters violently clashing with police, storming through the Capitol, rampaging through the building, and invading lawmakers' offices have shocked the American consciousness. And while the majority of Americans continue to believe that the events that day were an attack on the country, some 25% maintain that it was in fact in defense of democracy. That highlights the ongoing and persistent divisions in American society. Speaking earlier today, President Joe Biden minced no words. He called out Trump while never mentioning him by name, criticizing him sharply for drawing the crowd to the Capitol, for inciting them with false claims of election fraud, and for telling them to just minutes prior, fight like hell.
I do think it was a pretty dark day for America, I'm not gonna lie. Very disappointing, unpatriotic in my opinion, and I do think it cast a pretty dark shadow over the city and created a lot of bad memories for people. I think there was a lot of hope that he would. I think after President Trump, this country was pretty divided to the point where I don't know if any president can ever bring us back from that.
And so what I think happened was this incredible fracture of Republican and Democratic demonstrations of saying when there are demonstrations rising politically. I think in our country generally, in the news, there is a lot of desire to steer away from anything, glorifying anything that would seek to break down U.S. government, democratic ideals or representation, and yet there's still people who are really distrusting of like the voting processes and everything like that. And so really there's a question mark in the air of how can we trust our voting process, how can we trust our representatives, and how can we trust that the American people are actually going to be working together for an America that can stand in the future and give our kids in the future are so varied and have so many opinions that no one man or person is going to be able to unite a whole country that's as diverse as America is and should be. So I think he's made steps, but in no ways do I think it's truly united. There's too many opinions.
We need to get our act together as a nation if we're going to consider ourselves to be one under God, and we're supposed to be the powerful nation. So it's just allowing us to come to recognition that we got some problems here in the United States of America, and as a black person, it's well overdue that somebody took time out and said, you know what, this had to happen in order for the American people to know that if any group can allow themselves to get into the White House or on Capitol grounds to do what they did and allow stuff to happen, then we have issues, and the issues need to be resolved. And it took a year later before we still have not resolved all those issues.
I think it was an alarming event. I think in some ways it was inevitable because large swaths of the country have felt left behind by the mainstream political establishment for a long time, which Trump obviously tapped into. We have to look at, and I don't know that enough has been done to look at those root causes. I think it's often politics as usual in this country, unfortunately. And I know Trump is still trying, and his followers are still trying to, something that put the U.S. on the list of backsliding democracies. And look, the United States it's a two-party system. It's red, blue. It's very tribal, and I think that's part of the problem. And there's, you get each party puts people in office, and then it's like, okay, you got to fall in line with your caucus, Democrat or Republican, red or blue.